My mother told me not to bring my husband and children to my father's retirement dinner because, in her words, they made the family look messy. Then my father agreed with her in the group chat, and my sister laughed as if my marriage and my children were stains on a tablecloth. My name is Vivian Mercer, and I was 41 years old when one message showed me that I had never truly been invited into my own family. I had only been allowed to pay for the room. That night, I was standing in the laundry room of our house in Denver, smoothing the sleeve of Olivia's pale blue dress with my fingers. She had chosen it herself because she said the color looked like quiet sky. My son Noah's tiny dress shoes sat beside the dryer, polished by Grant after dinner. Grant had been humming in the kitchen while packing snacks for the next day, because he knew Noah got restless at long events and Olivia became nervous when adults stared too long. Everything was ready. The ballroom at the Mountain View Hotel had been confirmed. The retirement cake for my father, Victor Ashford, was paid for. The floral centerpieces my mother, Marlene, insisted had to look elegant but not desperate were scheduled. The jazz trio had my card on file. The photographer had the timeline. The shuttle for relatives from out of town was arranged. Even Brooke's hotel suite had been held under my name, because my younger sister said she was too overwhelmed to deal with another booking link. It was all under my name. It was all on my money. Then my phone lit up on top of the dryer. The family group chat. My mother had tagged me in front of everyone. Vivian, tomorrow you should come alone. Do not bring Grant and the kids. They make us look messy, and your father deserves one classy evening. For a moment, the laundry room seemed to lose air. I read it once. Then again. There was no soft place inside those words. No misunderstanding. No hidden kindness. My husband was not family to them. My children were not grandchildren. They were clutter. Noise. Something to crop out of the picture before the nice people arrived. Then my father liked the message. A few seconds later, Brooke replied, finally someone said. It. I did not move. My hand stayed on Olivia's little dress, but suddenly the fabric felt fragile beneath my palm, like I was touching the childhood I had spent trying to earn a place at tables that were never truly set for me. Grant came in behind me and stopped when he saw my face. What happened? He asked. I handed him the phone. He read the message. His jaw tightened, but he did not shout. Grant had never needed volume to show strength. That was one of the first things I had loved about him. He simply looked at me with the kind of sorrow that made the truth impossible to avoid. They do not want us there, he said quietly. I swallowed, but my throat had gone dry. They want me there, I whispered. Grant looked toward the kitchen counter, where my laptop sat beside a folder full of printed confirmations. His eyes moved back to me. No, Vivian, he said. They want your card there. That sentence landed like a door locking behind me. For years, I had separated the insult from the obligation. My mother could hurt me, and I would still bring flowers. My father could ignore me, and I would still fix his problems. Brooke could laugh at my pain, and I would still rescue her from the consequences of her own carelessness. But this was different. This time, they had not only rejected me. They had rejected Grant, who had spent years standing beside me with patient hands and a steady heart. They had rejected Olivia, who had drawn a picture for her grandfather and tucked it inside her little purse. They had rejected Noah, who had practiced saying, "Congratulations, Grandpa," without stumbling over the word. And somehow, they still expected the ballroom to glow. The cake to arrive. The music to play. The flowers to open. The pictures to look perfect. Because Vivian always handled things. Because Vivian always swallowed it. Because Vivian always paid. My phone buzzed again. Brooke was now discussing whether cream heels would photograph better than silver. My mother was asking if the photographer could capture a candid moment of Victor looking emotional. My father sent a message about wanting the toast to be short because he did not want the evening to feel too dramatic. Too dramatic. I almost laughed, but nothing came out. Grant placed his hand over mine. You do not have to answer them tonight. I looked at my daughter's dress. I looked at my son's shoes. Then I looked at the woman reflected faintly in the dark laundry room window. For the first time, she did not look tired. She looked awake. I walked to the kitchen, opened my laptop, and sat down. My hands were calm. That surprised me. I had expected tears. Guilt. Panic. The old fear of disappointing my family. Instead, there was only a clean, cold clarity. The hotel confirmation was the first email I opened. Crystal Ridge Ballroom. Mountain View package. Remaining balance due upon arrival. Payment method saved. Vivian Mercer. My mother had added notes in the booking request. Warm lighting. Family photo area. Elegant table setting. No children near the front. No children near the front. I stared at those words until something inside me went still. Then I moved the cursor to cancel reservation. A box appeared asking if I was sure. I was. I grew up in a house where love had favorites, but no one was honest enough to call it that. My parents' home sat on a quiet street outside Denver, with trimmed hedges, clean windows, and a front porch my mother decorated for every season. In spring, there were tulips. In autumn, pumpkins. At Christmas, white lights wrapped around the railing so neatly that neighbors slowed their cars to look. Marlene Ashford cared deeply about what people saw from the sidewalk. She believed a family could be measured by polished silver, ironed clothes, smiling photographs, and the kind of silence that kept unpleasant truths from leaking through the walls. Inside that house, Brooke was the daughter people admired. She had soft curls, bright eyes, and the easy confidence of someone who had never been asked to make herself smaller. When Brooke entered a room, my mother's voice changed. It became warmer, lighter, almost musical. If Brooke forgot a chore, she was tired. If Brooke talked back, she was spirited. If Brooke cried, everyone stopped what they were doing. I was different. I was useful. By the time I was 12, I knew how to start dinner before my mother came home. By 14, I knew which bills made my father rub his forehead in silence. By 16, I knew how to clean the house before guests arrived, how to calm my mother when Brooke had disappointed her, and how to make myself invisible when everyone's mood depended on pretending we were fine. My mother used to say, "Vivian is my steady one." For years, I carried that sentence like a medal. Only later did I understand it was not a medal. It was a job title. When Brooke turned 16, my parents bought her a used red car because, according to my mother, a girl needs freedom to become herself. When I turned 16, my father handed me a bus pass and said independence would build character. Brooke's mistakes were explained away with tenderness. Mine were treated like evidence that I should have known better. I remember one Thanksgiving when I stayed up until after midnight helping my mother bake pies. Brooke arrived the next morning wearing a new sweater, kissed my mother on the cheek, and said she had been too exhausted to help. My mother smiled and told her she looked beautiful. I stood beside the sink with flour under my fingernails, waiting for someone to notice. No one did. That was the pattern. Brooke was cherished for appearing. I was expected for serving. My father saw it, I think. Victor Ashford was not a cruel man in the loud way people recognize. He did not slam doors or throw plates. His cruelty was quieter. He protected comfort over truth. When my mother dismissed me, he looked at the newspaper. When Brooke blamed me, he cleared his throat and said sisters should not fight. When I tried to explain that I was tired, he told me, "Your mother depends on you. Do not make her feel guilty for that." So I learned not to. I became the daughter who answered calls on the first ring. The daughter who remembered birthdays, mailed cards, paid overdue bills before anyone else knew they existed. The daughter who carried grocery bags into my parents' kitchen while Brooke sat at the island talking about how overwhelmed she felt. Then I met Grant. Grant Mercer did not come from a perfect family, but he came from an honest one. In his house, people said sorry without turning it into a performance. They asked questions because they wanted answers, not because they were collecting evidence. The first time my mother called during our anniversary dinner, I stood up without thinking. Grant watched me walk away from the table. After I hung up, he asked, "Was she checking on you, or did she need something?" I defended Marlene immediately. I said she was stressed. I said families helped each other. I said he did not understand how things worked with us. He did not argue. He only said, "I understand more than you think." At the time, I thought he was being unfair. Now I know he was seeing the cage before I was ready to admit I lived inside one. When Olivia was born, I thought motherhood might soften my parents toward me. I believed Marlene would look at me holding my daughter and finally understand what I had needed from her. Instead, she took photos, adjusted Olivia's blanket, and spent most of the visit talking about Brooke's new apartment. When Noah came 6 years later, my father stayed only 30 minutes because he said traffic would get bad. Brooke sent flowers addressed to the new baby and forgot to spell his name correctly. Still, I kept trying. I brought Olivia and Noah to Sunday dinners. I paid for holiday meals. I sent school pictures. I made excuses when my mother corrected Olivia for being shy inside when Noah laughed too loudly. I told myself they were old-fashioned. I told myself they loved the children in their own way. But Grant saw what I refused to name. He saw Olivia grow quiet before visits. He saw Noah climb into my lap when Marlene's voice sharpened. He saw me checking my phone whenever Brooke had another emergency. He saw how much money left our account in small, polite pieces. Last winter, after I paid my parents' overdue property tax and covered Brooke's business website fee in the same week, Grant asked me to add it all up. I did not want to. But I did. In 1 year, I had spent more than $32,000 helping people who still treated my own family like guests they wished would leave early. And even after seeing that number, I agreed to plan my father's retirement dinner. Because some wounded part of me still believed that if I made the evening beautiful enough, my family would finally look at me and see love instead of labor. The night before the dinner, my mother told me what she saw. She saw my husband and children as mess. She saw my money as useful. And for the first time in my life, I believed her. The kitchen was so quiet that I could hear the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the old wall clock Grant had bought at a flea market years earlier. It was a peaceful sound on most nights. That night, it felt like a countdown. I sat in front of my laptop with my phone face down beside me. The screen still glowed faintly against the counter, as if the messages inside it had heat. Grant stood behind my chair for a moment, then pulled out the seat beside me and sat down. He did not touch the laptop. He did not tell me what to do. He simply stayed close enough for me to remember I was not alone. The hotel website was still open. Crystal Ridge Ballroom. My father's name appeared in the event title, but mine appeared on every line that mattered. Contact person. Payment method. Remaining balance. Special requests. I read them slowly, one by one, like I was reading the map of my own foolish hope. Warm lighting. Soft jazz near entrance. Family photo corner. No children near front table. That last sentence made my chest tighten. No children near front table. Not noisy children. Not tired children. Not small children. Just children. My children. Olivia, who had spent 20 minutes choosing the right crayon to draw mountains on her grandfather's card. Noah, who had asked Grant whether retired meant Grandpa would finally have time to come see his soccer practice. 2 little hearts, already trying to love people who treated them like a stain on the picture. I moved the cursor. Cancel reservation. A warning appeared. Are you sure? For most of my life, that question would have stopped me. Are you sure you want to upset your mother? Are you sure you want to disappoint your father? Are you sure you want Brooke to say you are selfish? Are you sure you want to be the difficult daughter? But that night, another question rose above all. Of them. Are you sure you want your children to watch you accept this? I clicked yes. The confirmation came a few seconds later. The ballroom had been released. I did not feel victory. I felt space. Next, I opened the bakery invoice. A 3-tier almond vanilla cake with white icing and gold lettering. Congratulations, Victor. A lifetime of service. My mother had chosen the words. Brooke had chosen the flavor. My father had joked that he hoped the cake looked expensive enough for pictures. I had paid for it. I cancelled the cake. Then the florist. Tall arrangements with white roses, blue thistle, and silver eucalyptus, because Marlene said the colors needed to look refined against the hotel windows. Cancelled. The jazz trio. Cancelled. The photographer. That one made me pause. I had imagined one picture. Just one. Grant standing beside me, Olivia leaning against my hip, Noah showing his crooked grin, my parents finally looking at us as if we belonged. I had carried that small wish quietly for weeks, hidden even from myself. Then I remembered Brooke's message. Finally someone said it. I cancelled the photographer and removed my card. My phone started buzzing. I did not pick it up. I opened the shuttle company confirmation. Cancelled. Then Brooke's hotel suite. Cancelled. Then the slideshow service my mother had insisted on because she wanted childhood photos of Brooke and me to tell the story of the family. I almost laughed when I read that. My story had never been allowed in that family unless it made someone else look good. Cancelled. Each click sounded small. But inside me, something enormous was shifting. I was not burning down a celebration. I was removing myself from a stage where I had been asked to hide my own family behind the curtain. At 11:12, my phone lit up so brightly it caught Grant's attention. Brooke. Vivian, what did you do to the hotel? A second message arrived before I could breathe. Are you insane? Fix it now. Then my mother. Sweetheart, do not be emotional. Your father's dinner is tomorrow. Sweetheart. She always softened her voice when control began slipping through her fingers. Not when I was hurt. Not when Olivia was excluded. Not when Noah was treated like trouble. Only when consequences arrived wearing my name. At 11:19, my father sent one line. Call me. Your mother is crying. There it was. My mother's tears had become urgent before my wound had even been acknowledged. Grant read the messages without touching the phone. His face was calm, but his eyes were dark with the kind of anger decent men carry carefully. They are not asking if you are okay, he said. No, I whispered. They are asking where their party went. My hands moved again. I logged into my banking app. There was my mother's store card autopay, connected to my checking account because she had promised it was only temporary. There were the monthly transfers to help my father with house expenses because he said retirement planning had become complicated. There was Brooke's design business software subscription, her advertising platform, her website renewal, all quietly attached to me like invisible hooks. One by one, I removed my payment methods. No announcement. No speech. No apology for stopping. By midnight, the group chat had turned wild. Brooke accused me of humiliating the family. My mother said I had misunderstood. My father said this was not how decent people handled conflict. That sentence made me sit back. Decent people. For years, decent had meant I stayed quiet. Decent had meant I paid. Decent had meant I taught my children to smile at people who made them feel unwelcome. Not anymore. I opened an old folder on my computer. Receipts. Transfers. Confirmations. Screenshots. I had kept them without knowing why, maybe because some quiet part of me had always known the day would come when my memory would need witnesses. Grant looked at the growing list and went still. Vivian, he said softly. I did not answer at first. I was adding numbers. Hotel deposits. Flower invoices. Brooke's business charges. My parents' bills. Vacation payments. Emergency transfers that never ended. The total from the last 5 years stared back at me. More than $68,000. For a moment, the room blurred. Not because of the money. Because I finally understood what had been purchased with it. Not love. Access. And now, for the first time, the door was closing. By morning, the beautiful retirement dinner had become a rumor with no room, no cake, no flowers, no music, and no one willing to admit who had been paying for it. I woke before sunrise, not because I had slept well, but because my body was still learning that peace could feel unfamiliar. Grant was already in the kitchen, making coffee without saying much. He placed a mug beside me, warm against my fingers, steady as his voice when he asked, "Do you want me to take the kids out for breakfast?" I shook my head. No. I want them here. I want to remember what family actually feels like. He nodded. There was no lecture in his face. No judgment. Just relief, quiet and careful, as if he had been watching me carry a heavy box for years and had finally seen me set it down. My phone had dozens of missed calls. Marlene. Victor. Brooke. Marlene again. Then Brooke over and over, each call sharper than the last in my imagination. The first voicemail was from my mother. Her voice was soft, the kind of softness she used when she wanted witnesses to believe she was the wounded one. "Vivian, sweetheart, this has gone too far. Your father's former coworkers are asking questions. The hotel says there is no ballroom. I do not know what you think you are proving, but you need to fix this before people arrive. Not, I hurt you. Not, I was wrong. Fix this." The second voicemail was from Brooke. No softness there. Brooke had never needed to disguise entitlement. She wore it like perfume. "You are seriously unstable if you think canceling Dad's dinner makes you look good. Everyone is going to know this was you. Do you understand how embarrassing this is for Mom?" I stared at the phone. Embarrassing. That was the word they kept circling. Not cruel. Not unfair. Not heartbreaking. Embarrassing. Their pain had a public audience, so suddenly it mattered. At 8:30, the messages from relatives began. Aunt Elaine asked if the dinner had been moved. Cousin Patrick said the shuttle company told him the reservation no longer existed. Another cousin wrote, "Did Marlene forget to confirm the hotel? She keeps saying there was a misunderstanding." I sat at the dining table with my laptop open and the receipts spread in front of me like pieces of a life I had been too tired to examine. Hotel deposit. Bakery invoice. Florist payment. Jazz trio contract. Photographer booking. Brooke's hotel suite. Brooke's design website. My mother's store card. My father's house expenses. Repairs. Transfers. Temporary help that had become a second mortgage on my dignity. Olivia walked in wearing pajamas, rubbing one eye. "Mom, are we still going to Grandpa's party?" My chest tightened. There are questions children ask that cut deeper because they are innocent. I pulled her close. "No, sweetheart. Not today." "Did we do something wrong?" Grant turned from the counter. His face changed at that question. Pain moved through him quickly, then settled into resolve. "No," he said before I could speak. "You did nothing wrong. Never think that." Olivia leaned against me. I kissed the top of her head and felt the last hesitation leave my body. I picked up my phone, opened the family group chat, and took one clear picture of the table covered in receipts. Then I sent it. Under the photo, I wrote, "This is what I have paid for this family while you called my husband and children messy." For nearly a full minute, no one answered. That silence was the first honest thing they had given me. Then my mother wrote, "Family helps family." I typed back, family also respects family. Brooke jumped in immediately. You are twisting everything. Mom was just trying to protect Dad's evening from chaos. Chaos. My little boy's laugh was chaos. My daughter's shy smile was chaos. My husband's quiet dignity was chaos. But Brooke's unpaid bills, my mother's insults, my father's cowardice, those were simply family matters. I sent the screenshot of my mother's original message. Then the screenshot of my father liking it. Then Brooke's reply. Finally, someone said it. The group chat shifted. I could almost feel people leaning closer to their screens. Aunt Elaine wrote, Marlene, you said that? Cousin Patrick replied, wait. Vivian paid for the dinner? Someone else asked, why would Grant and the kids not be welcome? My mother began typing. Stopped. Typed. Again. I only meant the children might be tired. Vivian is being dramatic. Brooke wrote, none of this would have happened if you had just kept the hotel like a normal person. I looked at that sentence for a long time. There it was. Not if Mom had not insulted you. Not if Dad had defended you. Not if I had not laughed. If you had kept the hotel. I felt no rage then. Only clarity. I wrote, thank you, Brooke. You just made the truth very clear. You did not need me respected. You needed my card working. My father finally appeared. Vivian, this is not appropriate for the group. Call me now. I answered, it was appropriate for the group when Mom told me not to bring my family. It can stay in the group now. Then I sent the full list. The ballroom was cancelled. The cake was cancelled. The flowers were cancelled. The jazz trio was cancelled. The photographer was cancelled. The shuttle was cancelled. Brooke's suite was cancelled. My card was removed from every account. My transfers were stopped. Any future financial help was over. My mother replied, I cannot believe my own daughter would humiliate us like this. And there it was, the final truth dressed as grief. She still believed the wound was her embarrassment. Not my exclusion. Not Grant's disrespect. Not Olivia's question. Not Noah being unwanted before he even entered the room. Her embarrassment. I set the phone down, stood up, and walked to the living room where Noah was building a crooked tower from wooden blocks. Olivia followed me quietly. Grant stood in the doorway, watching me with eyes full of something I had waited years to see from my own family. Pride. My phone buzzed again. I did not look. For the first time in my life, their panic was not my emergency. That afternoon, I did not go to a ballroom with mountain views, white roses, soft jazz, and people smiling for photographs they had not earned. I stayed home. Not because my mother told me to stay away. Not because my father's silence still had power over me. Not because Brooke's anger frightened me. I stayed home because, for the first time in my life, I understood the difference between being excluded and choosing not to enter. Grant made grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch because Noah insisted melted cheese was better medicine than soup. Olivia set the table with paper napkins folded into uneven triangles. She was very serious about it, smoothing each one with her little hand like she was preparing a royal banquet. Noah placed a toy dinosaur beside my plate and announced that it was there to guard me from mean grown-ups. I laughed. Then I cried. The tears came suddenly, hot and quiet, not the kind that begged anyone to notice, but the kind that finally washed the dust off something buried for too long. Grant knelt beside my chair and took my hand. Olivia climbed into my lap. Noah leaned against my side with all the weight of a small boy who believed love meant staying close. I am okay, I whispered, though my voice broke. Grant looked at me with a tenderness that did not ask me to perform strength. You do not have to be okay all at once, he said. That sentence reached places in me my parents had never touched with kindness. All my life, I had been praised for carrying too much. Vivian is steady. Vivian understands. Vivian will handle it. Those words had sounded like trust when I was young. Now I knew better. Sometimes people call you strong because it is easier than admitting they have been using your strength as a place to put their burdens. Later that evening, Olivia brought me the card she had made for my father. She had drawn mountains, a blue sky, and 4 stick figures holding hands. Grant, me, Olivia, and Noah. She had not drawn my parents or Brooke. Children do not always understand politics, but they understand warmth. They know where they can breathe. "Can I make this for you instead?" she asked. I nodded. She crossed out Grandpa carefully and wrote Mom in purple crayon. Then she added one sentence at the bottom. "Thank you for choosing us." I had to turn away for a moment. There are words that break you, and there are words that put you back together. My mother's message had broken the last piece of my illusion. My daughter's card began rebuilding something truer. That night, after the children were asleep, I opened my email. There was one message from my mother. Subject line, about today. I read it once. "Vivian, I am sorry if you felt hurt, but you embarrassed your father deeply. We were under pressure, and you know Brooke has been struggling. Family should not keep score. I hope when you calm down, you will remember who raised you." I stared at the screen, waiting for pain to rise. It did not. Only recognition. That was not an apology. That was a hand reaching back toward my wallet with guilt wrapped around its fingers. I closed the email. Then I removed my saved payment information from every shared account I could find. I changed passwords. I canceled automatic transfers. I created a savings account for Olivia and Noah with the money that would no longer disappear into emergencies that never ended. I booked a counseling appointment for myself, not because I was broken, but because I was finally ready to stop living like someone else's repair plan. My father texted once the next morning. "Your mother barely slept." I looked at the message for a long time. There was still no question about me. No question about Grant. No mention of Olivia asking if she had done something wrong. No apology for liking a message that pushed my children out of the family frame. I deleted it. Brooke sent a long email accusing me of ruining her reputation because several relatives now knew I had been paying for her business expenses. I deleted that too. For years, I thought peace meant keeping everyone comfortable. I thought being a good daughter meant saying yes before anyone had to ask twice. I thought love meant proving, paying, forgiving, shrinking, and smiling through the ache. But that was not peace. That was obedience wearing perfume. Real peace came later, in a quiet kitchen, with Grant washing dishes while Noah sang nonsense words in the living room and Olivia taped her purple card to the refrigerator. Real peace was not glamorous. It did not need a ballroom. It did not need flowers. It did not need people clapping for a family that only looked united from far away. Real peace was this. A home where my children were not treated like mess. A husband whose dignity did not need to be defended with silence. A woman finally brave enough to stop buying a seat at a table that had never truly welcomed her. Maybe one day my parents will understand what they lost. Maybe they will not. But I no longer build my life around the hope that people who benefited from my silence will suddenly honor my voice. If this story reminds you of a time when you were expected to carry everyone, pay for everything, and still accept disrespect, tell Still Waters Payback in the comments where you finally drew your line. Like this story if it spoke to you, subscribe to Still Waters Payback for more stories about truth, dignity, and justice, and remember this, boundaries do not destroy real love. They only reveal what was never love in the first place.